Hi, I'm Ebru.
And I'm Ceylan.
We are the citizens of a democratic and secular country, Turkey, where the majority of people are Muslims and Islam can be lived freely. And we're very devout Muslims. We live by the rules of Islam, and at the same time we live a very high quality life and enjoy all the beauties of the world. There are many misunderstandings about Islam. Traditional practices, prejudices and bigotry served Islam like a religion to be feared of, especially from the point of Western countries. Bigots who do not practice the real rules of Islam and only act totally in contradiction with the Quran cause this kind of a baseless hatred and fear against Islam and Muslims. Today, even acts of terrorism are presented as stemming from the concept of jihad in Islam, which is a big mistake. The only solution to terror, oppression, wars and violence is to eradicate false ideology of Darwinism and materialism. So we Muslims only have an intellectual struggle against these perverted and false ideologies. Once Darwinism and materialism is erased from the face of the earth, there will be no need for struggle of survival and no need for strong to eliminate the weak. All the resources of the world is sufficient when allocated properly. There will be love, mercy, compassion and collaboration which will create a huge positive power. This is the intellectual struggle of a Muslim, not any other kind of struggle or jihad.
So, Muslims' way of making the world a better place is not about using violence or conflict, but about creating an atmosphere of education and mutual understanding. And this is how we can make a change. And this is what we are ordered to do at the same time. So, some circles have been making a number of unrealistic claims regarding Muslims. And these people think of Muslims as bloodthirsty and oppressive individuals. And they're using specific incidents, as evidence, in their own eyes at least. But this is all very far from the true facts. They interpret the oppressive system that manifests itself in a number of areas in the world, and various forces unjustly try to ascribe to Islam. And this is in disfavor of the Muslim people. But we Muslim people are peace-loving, compassionate individuals, and they try to give a totally different impression of the Islam revealed in the Quran. And this is a big mistake and a groundless claim.
Yes, you're right. The people who make this claim imagine that it's genuine Muslims who abide by the Quran that spread terror in the name of Islam. The fact is, however, that they have nothing to do with the Quran or Islam. The great majority of the well-known terrorist leaders today are intelligent agents who have been trained for purposes of provocation. These are members of some well-known intelligence agencies in America and Europe and receive their instructions directly from those intelligent organizations. All these people have received a Darwinist and materialist education. They are people who are unable to properly appreciate Allah, who fail to live by the true Islamic moral values commanded by Allah, and they live far removed from the fine, warm and loving moral values.
And they have fallen under the Darwinist indoctrination, Ebru. And there are people who agreed on the errors of Darwinism, and they believe that conflict is the only road to progress, and that violence and oppression are essential components of life. But they may appear to be Muslims, belong to any Muslim country, or that their identity documents state that they're Muslims, and this does not alter the fact, because these people live on an entirely Darwinist worldview, and this is how they evaluate the people around them, according to the errors they have accepted. They say human beings are slightly more developed animals, and they have no souls, no personal identities or responsibilities. In any animal community, the weak must be weeded out and eliminated.
Yes, the terrorist leaders in question are actually people raised in America and various European countries to be spoiled and fetish in a manner far removed from Islamic moral values. They say they are Muslims, but they almost do not follow a single rule of real Islam, so they are not Muslims.
And they have an atheist mindset and have embraced the negative and degenerate aspects of materialism and Darwinism. And I should clarify something here, actually. One may have led all kinds of different lifestyles before beginning to live by the moral values of the religion, and that's not something to be criticized.
Yes, but it's different with the people in question. When the time comes for these people to go to work, they grow beards and start work looking like Muslims who believe and live according to the Quran. They have nothing to do with Islam. Their religion is not Islam, but Darwinism and materialism. It's impossible for sincere Muslims to support and be part of such a repressive system. The people who carry out this oppression in the world are the followers of Stalin, Che, Lenin, Mussolini, Hitler, and Mao.
And there are people who foolishly attempt to apply the aberrant ideas of materialists, communists, and fascists in the name of Islam, and who don't follow Islam in its true form. They don't have a clue what real Islam is. They don't have a clue what being peaceful is, and that is how the tyrannic system in certain circles unjustly tries to impute to Islam works.
So it's clear that there is no room for violence in Islam. According to the Quran, war is only possible for defensive purposes when property, lives, or virtue are in danger. But even then, Muslims never go to excess and have a responsibility to treat the captives they take kindly, even give their prisoners food while they themselves go hungry, to establish peace without delay and to protect civilians and the innocent.
It's very important we never go to extremes, because it's clear from the life of also our Prophet ﷺ, the kind of behavior in this regard that Islam demands. Throughout the 13 years they lived in Mecca, our Prophet and the companions were subjected to terrible duress, attacks and slanders, and they were forced to leave their homes, and they were threatened with death, but they never resorted to violence, despite all this aggression and oppression.
Yes.
After then only, they engaged in wars that were unavoidable and only for the defensive purposes.
It's very important.
Yeah.
There is war in the Quran, but it
Not
is
offensive.
Yes, it is only self-defense. When your possession, security, and honor is under attack, that is to say, someone has entered one's house. There is a raid with weapons, rifles. They had knocked the glass frames down and fired bullets. What can a man do in such a case?
Someone who sees and grasps the depth of the Quran, the spirit of Quran, can also easily see that there is nothing but forgiveness in it. The Quran says that Muslims must not go to extremes in war, and they must stop fighting when the community they are at war does so. When they stop fighting, we also stop fighting. That's what Quran orders. In a verse, Allah says, I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed Satan. But if they cease, Allah is ever forgiving, most merciful. So we have to cease fire too when they cease. There is no cowardice, but there is no going to extremes. There is only defense in Quran.
Yes, and everything is aimed at forgiving. For instance, Almighty Allah says, but do not go beyond the limits. This is very important. If they stop, you also stop, as you said. Release the captives. Behave well to the captives. It's a perfect explanation. It's a highly humanistic interpretation. In case of a murder, for instance, notice that this is a murder. Allah says there is the right for retaliation. Normally the penalty for murder, is execution. However, Allah says it is more auspicious for you if you forgive. Since a Muslim would always choose to forgive, this is more auspicious.
Yeah.
We see here the highest form of compassion, love and mercy. Consequently, Islam is a religion of love, mercy and compassion. But this also holds true for Christianity and Judaism in its true form. These beautiful features are also preserved.
So,
we also live as brothers and sisters in the ever-shrinking world. We will introduce each other who we really are and put a stop to these wars and crimes, because there will be no more an excuse to drag people in conflict anymore.
Muslims are loving and compassionate people like us, and we love American people. We have nothing to do other than that, and we are aware that American people in general do not like war and conflicts, and as nations we love each other. We would never want harm for each other, despite what the media says.
That's true. Thank you for watching us.